welcome back to the sim. In this one, we're jumping in with the TDS GTN 750Xi and the PC-12. Let's go ahead and get this thing set up with Advisory VNAV. We're going to learn how to set it up, and then we're going to use it to step down on our arrival. All right, let's jump inside and get going. As you see, we're almost getting to our top of climb, and we're going to want to set the configuration up on our GTNXi so that we can utilize Advisory VNAV and then manage our descent manually through the autopilot using VS. All right, so let's check it out. So the first thing I like to do is make sure to get all the settings configured if you haven't done it already. So you're going to want to go into Utilities and into VNAV and make sure that VNAV is enabled. If VNAV is enabled and you have a constraint coming up in your flight plan, you're going to see that first active VNAV constraint, do sub in this case, and it's an at flight level 140. And to be able to do the standard 3-degree glide path, we're looking for almost 1,200 feet per minute, and a time of top of descent is quickly counting down as we are still climbing, so it's going to go a little bit faster. Now, if you wanted to, you could target a specific V-speed. And so this is one method to make it really easy is you could put in, say, 1,200 feet per minute that you want to descend at, and it will recalculate the path angle and the location to start your top of descent. For now, we'll go with the default, which is normally using this 3-degree glide path. So with that glide path as the fixed constraint, the item that is going to change for us is the VS target. So we're going to utilize that, and we're going to make our life easier so we don't have to keep coming back to this menu. From our map, you have these data points, and these are the default data points. But if you come to your menu, and you come here to your change user fields, you can go to each one of these and you can change them. VSR, or the vertical speed required. So what's nice about this is it's going to tell us from where we are the vertical speed required to make that first constraint. Over here, I might put something in like wind speed, maybe, if you wanted to see the wind. You can see your distance to the next waypoint, or sometimes what I like to put in is estimated time to destination. So here, 43 minutes, and we will be at destination. When we come over, I tend to put here our time till top of descent. Now, another thing that can be useful, so I have hardware knobs and buttons set up to control these menu changes. So I can easily get myself over to the different pages by clicking on those, and I can get to things like the VNAV page, so I can also see time of descent, VS required, and vertical deviation. This is one feature that it's too bad, but that's not a data field that you can select. I really wish it was, because this can help give you an idea how far you're tracking away from glide path. But since we don't have that option right now, not a big deal. We'll come back to the map. So sometimes what I tend to do, since wind, I could always put on one of my other data fields on, say, the 650. So a lot of times what I do like to do is you can throw in, instead of a data field, you can quick select a page to jump to. And so if you go ahead and you throw in the VNAV page, now what you're going to have when you're done setting up your data fields is you have a quick select to get to it, and of course if you hold down the home, you'll jump back to map. So this is kind of how I like to set up my 750, and it gives me a lot of flexibility in seeing how much time we have till top of descent, and we can see how much our VSR will be. So as we approach top of descent, we'll see what we have to manage for our vertical speed, and as we're speeding up, slowing down a little bit, drifting a little, we'll be able to manually adjust the vertical speed component, and that will catch us up and keep us on target. So picking some different fields over here. And we'll we'll go ahead and give ourselves our VNAV page down in that field. So we're going to jump to our VNAV page. VNAV is enabled and we have that same information. And so this is where this can be kind of helpful to us. So we can jump to the home default page, which has the information track and heading. And again, another place that would be great if we could change the data fields and get a VSR. So again, you could configure these user fields to anything that you want. This is another page that does give you about six options. So this might be a better one to configure with some of those VSR and the additional data. But as mentioned, you could always jump to the VNAV from here. So you can go back to the default and then jump to the map page as well. So from up here, we're going to see that we've got a time of descent coming up in 1736. And what we can do is leverage our flight plan page. And you can see that technically we can go all the way down to 2,000 feet. And so this is the part where it's really useful to leverage that VSR. And so if we come over and we're going to end up setting up our altitude, and we go ahead and set ourselves for that 2,000 feet. So we're going to set up for 2,000 feet because, as you saw here, 2,000 is the lowest constraint that we can drop down to. So we're going to drop down to 2,000 feet, and it's going to manage with those VSR all of the step downs for us automatically. So when we're looking at the VSR, it will calculate all the way through. So since we have to stop at flight level 140, it is going to take us down to 14,000 feet, and we will come to a level off. And again, that's because we can't use an actual coupled VNAV. So this is how we can manage it. So two approaches are: you dial in the 14, put in 14, you descend to 14, and then right away after crossing that, you'd be having to set up lower, start your descent again, and manage to the next downward constraint. So instead, if you just manage by VSR, you can do it the whole way. And so it'll manage the flight path for you. You'll clear right at 14, then it'll keep you below 7, below 5, and above 2, and give you that nice descent path from 14 all the way down at Lenog. So we're going to go ahead, jump ahead in the video once we get there, and show you how to start the top of descent. It's getting down to the 1 minute to top of descent. So if we head on over to our GTNs, we have a look at these. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put this one on the flight plan page so we can see that information. And here we could use the VSR screen, but what's nice is we can also go straight to the VNAV page, or if we also set up our fields, we could see where top of descent is going to be in a minute. So we're going to hear the call out.
Vertical track.
So let's go ahead, jump here. We can see our VNAV enabled, and our profile is getting about 1,267 feet per minute and in 46 seconds. And from here, we're about minus 1,100. So of course, it doesn't have to be dead on perfect. We could, and we are currently clawing in that vertical deviation. We could start down a little bit early. It's only going to be a few hundred feet. And for the purpose of this, we're basically, what we want to do is we want to arm that descent, and then we want to go into VS mode. And now we want to start dialing in that vertical speed that's required. You can see the target's 1,200 feet per minute. So let's just go to about 1,200 feet per minute. And you can see right now the VS target that is required is going to be that. But we also want to make sure that we don't start overspeeding. So we're going to start pulling back the torque a little bit, and then that way we should be okay, and we'll manage it. And then when you come in, you can see here that right now VS required is 1300 feet per minute. So we're just going to dial in 1300 feet per minute. And here we can see our speed is still looking good, 1300 feet per minute. We're managing 1300 feet per minute, and that will have us on our way. And then here you can see the vertical deviation, so you can see how far off you are from the path. Now the only little loss that we have right now is you're not going to see the banana showing you 1400. For the banana to show us 1400, we would have to have this sitting at, 14,000 feet flight level 140, and you can see the banana's got us bang on it. But the purpose of this was so that we could keep our target all the way down to our lowest constraint that we have published, which is 2,000 feet, and it's going to manage and tell us what we need to maintain. And so all we got to do is stay in VS and manage that VS mode. So you can see we're on nav, our flight director, and of course we have our altitude armed, and we're going with VS. And so we're going to just manage our VS, and as we get close to do sub, we should cross at flight level 140, and then it will recalculate the next drop off. So we're just going to jump ahead at this point and get a little bit closer to that first transitionary point, and I think we'll be able to see how it's going to manage from there on in. So here we can see our tread marker has us about 1 minute to do sub. We're about 110 feet off of the vertical path, so the deviation is minor. Our current target needs to be about 1,304 feet per minute. We're currently running at 1,300. And if we start pulling back a little bit to 1,200 feet per minute, we're now going to slow our VS, our targeted VS. And so 30 seconds out, we are bang on 1,200 feet per minute. We've got to lose a few hundred feet more, and we are coming up on that path. And you can see here, it's slowly reducing the VS required. So our VSR that we need to start dealing with is to slowly peel it in. So we're going to stay at this target of 1,200 feet per minute, and we're crossing pretty much bang on. Our deviation, we're only currently off by 50 feet from our path. So we're doing good. We're keeping our speed target, and you can see that vertical speed target is coming back. VS required 1,200 feet per minute. We're holding 1,200 feet per minute. So we're using that VSR, the VS target, and our current vertical deviation is, well with under 100 feet. So everything seems to be working very well. So the next one up is going to be UCPAG. Got our speed, we're under 250, below 10, which is great. Barrow is dialed in. Holding at 1,200 feet per minute, we can see that our VS required is 1180, 1200, target of 1190. We're only 30 feet off, so we're well within the 100 feet deviation. And we can see that at UCPAG, we want to be below, so not above 7,000 feet. You can see that feet per minute is coming in a little bit, bottom descent. We're starting our turn and starting to Murrum, and we are only off the path by about 40 feet. So we are right on our path. There we are below, and continuing on with a VS target of about 1,200 feet per minute and showing the VSR around 1180, 1190. So our 1,200 feet per minute is doing great, and we're continuing on. So the next stop is Murrum, and we've got to be below 5,000 at Murrum. And of course, we can see we are going to hit that just fine. So up next, we want to get ready for our approach. So everything seems to be going well. So I want to make sure to get the exact same procedure in on this side. So we're going to go ahead and get the 8 X-ray. We are going to do that from Rotru. We're going to load that approach. And then, as mentioned before, we're going to remove this waypoint. And we're going to remove this waypoint. And you're going to see it automatically removed and put Rotru in. So we're going to hit that. We're going to go to there. So when we come back to here, we see that currently our VSR that it's suggesting is only 90 feet. So we're going to dial this back in, and we're going to set our VSR to 100 feet per minute, since we need to be at Lenog between 3,000 and 2,000. And so our path, when we look at our VNAV path, time to top of descent is 339. So what's going to happen here is it's set up a new top of descent, which is here at Lenog. So we're descending at a nice smooth rate at 100 feet per minute. In a minute, we'll be below 3,000, which keeps us perfectly fine for Lenog, and then Rotru the IAF at 2,000 feet. Always a spectacular view of downtown Toronto. So time of top of descent, it is showing top of descent as we are inbound, because we have to be above 2,000, but we needed to be below 3,000, which we had achieved. And so we're just slowly still working down at 100 feet per minute. But if we wanted to, we could choose to go into altitude hold mode at this point and just stay to a specific height. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to drop down to 20, probably around 2,500. So if we go back to our alerter, we'll finish off at 2,500. But as you can see, not hard to manage our VNAV down into the area. So we are inside of Rotru, again, not below 2,000 feet along here. Pelmy is going to be our FAF, so we are inside of the IAF and we are available. So let's go ahead and arm approach mode. So of course, approach mode is now active, and if we look over here, we can see still says LOC. Again, that's because the current system hasn't been updated. This is still before whatever update is coming from SWS, but it would be a glide path, not a LOC. So we would be still on GPS nav, and it would be glide path that we are waiting on. So GPS, away we go. And of course, we should have dialed in our decision height. It is 258. So making the turn, still looking good.
Vertical track.
So vertical track. Okay, 258. So we have 258 on the decision height. Loc, altitude, approach mode. We're going to go ahead and put flaps 15, as we just got into flap speed. And our glide path should come alive when the leg to the FAF becomes active. So there you go. Leg to the FAF becomes active, and now we see our glide path above us, and we can see that the glide path is now, looks like it's now armed. So we got altitude, we have glide path, we have LOC. We are just waiting on the rest of it to start coming in. So we're going to go ahead, start pulling back our power just a little bit. And glide path is coming in, and we are starting to pitch for it. So we're going to drop the gear. And we can see LPV, so we are valid for the decision height of 258. We don't have to go to reduced minimums.
$500.
$50, $40, $30, $20, $10.
And there we go. We're down. Beta. We'll pay for that light. Alright, well, I think if we made it this far, I appreciate you guys for sticking around. If you could, please go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. And come along on the next one, as we're going to be looking at a long track and maybe also a parallel track for the TDS GTN. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.